But you definitely stepped into some shit though, generalizing women. I do just want to point that out.
Yeah.
We gotta get you together. Real talk. Today we're going to be talking about Malcom and Maurice. I have two friends with me so we can dive into it. Y'all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
My name is Kenn. I am a 24-year-old writer and astrologer, tarot reader based in North Carolina, and I am currently trying to break into the industry, and I like to critique films in my spare time.
Yes.
All right. And my name is Omari. I love everything music, film, TV, different things like that. I currently review music myself. But yeah, so and plus, and I mean Black art especially. So
definitely. Y'all know me, Kim Ortiz. I do a whole bunch of things. I'm not gonna bore you with that, but just subscribe. Hit the subscribe link and look at the description box, and you can stay connected with me. So I want to get right into this movie because the day that it came out, I watched it and I had to keep taking breaks. Like I told y'all, I could not make it through that movie in one sitting. Like after each little micro argument, I had to pause it, take a deep breath, go find some liquor, and then come back because it was just, God, it was so toxic. That's the best way to describe it. Both of them. And the thing is, why I love that I have both of y'all on here is to give that those polar opinions, because it's basically like social media got divided. I saw a lot of women against Malcolm's character, calling him toxic and all these things, fragile masculinity, blah, 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 and not addressing Zendaya, who plays Marie's behavior. And then I saw a lot of dudes, you know what I'm saying, sort of taking up for Malcom and then addressing Marie's behavior. In my opinion, they're both trash. They don't need to be together. Separate immediately, because they both had a lot of issues that I want us to get into today. So I kind of want to open it up with what scenes do you remember that stood out to you the most? I want to play a clip of one that stood out to me, but I want to go with you first, Omari, of just your overall take of the film.
I think it was shot really good. I like how it was directed. I think that was really good. And there's the fact that it was well, I would say I don't really like black and white films, but I think black and white films like made today are good. Yeah, it was a really good looking movie, but I think it was just I mean it was interesting. I like the dialogue. I mean it was an argument, but it was like how it just how everything kind of went together and flowed, and just like their like back and forth. It was really good. And then I think just like how they made it so the argument like revealed things in the movie, like revealed, you know, stuff that was happening, stuff that had already happened, different things like that. And I think just with what they were arguing about, I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you want me to kind of get into that, or will we
hold that thought?
Okay,
that thought. Yeah. I want to go to Kenn and get her initial reaction, okay, and then we'll just go right into like the actual dialogue.
My initial reaction was that I thought the movie was a bit ableist, especially the way he was like trashing on her past drug addiction and calling her a mental health patient. And from what you said earlier, how like the dudes were emphasizing more with Malcolm's character, I am more on Zendaya's character because I personally experienced the things that Zendaya's character went through, and just seeing how she was getting treated, like being called mental health patient, and then saying, oh, you're not the first broken girl I've been with, just talking down on her in that bathtub scene. Like that really like outraged me. I was pissed off, but I continued watching the whole thing to the very end because I wanted to see what was going to happen and how Sam conveyed the whole script. So yeah, that's my thought on that. And the cinematography was very beautiful. It was inspired by a 1960s film, 60s film that starred Elizabeth Taylor in it when I was doing my research. And I even like saw the trailer of that 60s film and I saw the quite major similarities between the two movies. So yeah, that's my whole thought about it for now. And then I'm going to say more later when it gets deeper because I have a
Yeah.
lot to say. I
Yeah.
have a lot to say about this movie.
Yeah, we all probably do. My initial reaction was I love that it was in black and white, but I like old films. I like the classic look. I think for me, they made a decision to do that because they didn't want any distractions from the dialogue. For me, when I'm looking at cinematography, I'm looking at textures. I'm looking at color. Like a movie, for example, that sticks out to me in that regard is Queen and Slim. I have a lot of opinions about that movie that we won't go into, but one thing I can say is that the cinematography was just, that's what I paid attention to, was like, you know, all of that. And so I think that they made a decision to do black and white this time to keep us locked in on what was really happening, which was the argument between them, which to me was just completely toxic. One thing that is interesting though, I did watch an interview with Sam, his wife, and the producers of the movie. And he said that this is based off an argument that he had with his wife. He forgot to thank his wife at an award show. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that's like pretty much how the argument begins with Malcolm and Marie, is that she wasn't thanked. So that was an actual thing that actually happened. He forgot to thank his wife at an award show, and that sort of sparked this movie. Because one thing that irks me that Marie did, if you have a problem, speak on that problem. It took him so many times, like so much time, to finally get to the root of what the issue was. Like, maybe in her mind, she thought, I don't want to ruin his night. But I'm the person that if I know something is wrong with you and you're refusing to communicate that with me, I'm already having a bad night. Because at this point, I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like that's a control thing. Like, you know that I want to know what's bothering you. And instead of you just telling me what's bothering you, you're going to do that. And don't teach me no dry macaroni. Like, we need to sit down and have a conversation about what's bugging you. And then for her to go through all of that and finally say, you forgot to thank me, which is a valid reason to be upset. I would be mad if my dude didn't thank me, especially if he wrote a movie about my life. I would feel some type of way. But then at the very end, it was like, oh, not only did you not thank me, you didn't even cast me to play my own character. And I'm like, why did we have to go through all of that hoopla to get to the root of the issue, which was you weren't casted, which in my opinion goes deeper of she doesn't feel like she was considered. There was like, she wasn't feeling considered in the relationship. And I think he didn't get that. He felt like, what else do you want from me? Like, what else am I supposed to give to you? So what's y'all's take on that?
I have a lot to say. So
go for it.
It could be a generation thing, even though the age wasn't too specified in the script. He did say, I met you when you were like barely 20. So he's obviously a millennial and she is Gen Z. And it depends on the individual person on how they communicate their feelings and what they're going through. But I do notice as a more generational thing, Gen Z, they're not as abrupt and upfront and blunt with their feelings versus as like the older generations are. Like, that's one thing I'm going to.
Am I the older generation? Like,
no, but I mean, like, Malcolm's character is a millennial and her character is Gen Z. So I was stating that the Gen Z generation, because I'm part of Gen Z.
Yeah.
And I noticed with my generation, we could be very passive aggressive at most times. So I totally understand when you were like, we gotta wait like 30, 40 minutes into the film to see her express, oh, so I was not casted in the movie and you didn't thank me. But at the same time, I wanted to bring up how it could be a generation thing that they have two different communication styles. And also, Sam purposely could have made her a passive aggressive person. He could have personally made her a passive aggressive character in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Omari, how you feeling about that?
I mean, I would say, I mean, I would almost argue, and I mean, the thought that comes to my mind is like that's kind of women in general. Like, just
Oh
I
Lord.
feel like, and I mean, no offense, but I just feel like
Look at Ken's face.
a lot of times, at least like on the basis of like y'all want us to more find out what's going on rather than just telling us exactly what it is. So like actually showing that we care to fight to figure out what it is versus just up and saying it. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's kind of been my experience at times, but I mean, I don't know. It was just I think it was kind of ridiculous. It was like, okay, this all kind of came, it kind of came out at the end. And it was like, I think, but it's like it made so many connections because it was like, that's why she got mad again that's when things got bad again after he said to her, what was it, that like she should have never gave up acting.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, like they were like they got to a point where they stopped arguing, they were joking, they were laughing on the couch, and then he said that at the end, and then she like got up and smoked a cigarette, and then that's when she started poking holes at him again. And then they started like when she was saying like he was needy and stuff like that. So
I hated that she did that too. I hated that he would say something and then she would pause. And maybe she was just processing what was being said, which is fair. But it was just like he would stab and then she would pause. She would just take the hit and then she would come back with the chopper, just, and it was just like, whose gun is bigger? Back and forth, back and forth. But you definitely stepped into some shit though, generalizing women. I do just want to point that out.
Yeah.
We got to get you together on that because there's a lot of men who feel that way too. So that's why I love that you're having this conversation. But I saw Kenn like about to blow the gasket. So what's your response to that?
I was about to say, it just really depends on the individual person and their communication style, and it doesn't matter, oh, it's a woman thing. Women cannot properly explain their feelings and what they're going through. No, like it could be anybody of any gender, it's an individual trait in how you communicate. And what you said about her being, I'm trying to remember what you said about the scene where he brought up why she gave up on acting and stuff. And it triggered her a bit. And I could totally understand where she's coming from, why she was getting triggered, because acting, modeling, those industries, it takes a lot of hard work and thick skin to work in them. And maybe her drug addiction triggered her to the point she cannot act anymore. Like maybe she got addicted to the pill so bad she forgot her lines or whatever. I'm just bringing up these theories because speaking from personal experiences and then reading stories from celebrities who went through addiction, like you notice they haven't been in a role in like the last 10 or 15 years because they feel triggered to get back into the industry because maybe they feel like, oh, maybe I'm not sober enough to remember my lines, or maybe don't look good on camera, or maybe I faded out. So that's probably why him saying that to her, that you should not give up on acting, made her triggered. I just want to bring that point up.
Yeah, I feel that. But also I think there's a lack of accountability too. I think in that moment, he was trying to hold her accountable for her own career and her dream. Yes, addiction, I've never been through that, so I can't imagine. I can only empathize with people who have been through addiction of that magnitude, I would say. But at the same time, it's like, that doesn't make you exempt from accountability. And when he makes the joke of like, damn, why didn't you, when she has the knife scene and she's like going crazy and we're just, on our toes, like, is she really finna stab this dude? Or And then she's just like in scene, basically. And he's just like, well, why didn't you do that the first time? I think that was his way of saying, you could have had the career that you wanted to have, and I would have been right there to support you if only you would have given effort. So sometimes too, like, people are lazy. You know, I'm not going to call that laziness, because if there's an addiction present, that's a sickness. So I don't want to trivialize it in that manner. But at the same time, you got to be accountable for it too, because it was your addiction. So I just think that there was a lack of accountability on both sides. And you know, as far as going back to what Omari said about, you know, it being a trait with women, I've been on both sides. I've been that person that didn't effectively communicate that I was feeling some type of way and was very passive. I've been that person. And I've also been that person that's been very forthcoming with how I felt. And the dude couldn't communicate. He was very passive. So I've had it on both sides. So I don't want to generalize and say that's specific to a gender, because that's simply not true. I think, and I know that you weren't doing that, but I just want to be clear, because there's a lot of men and women who do feel that way. Of like, that's just how females, that's just y'all females, that's just what y'all do. So I'm not surprised.
I think, okay, I kind of misspoke. I should have been more specific. I think when it comes to women who specifically choose to deal with men, as far as like in relationships and different things like that, I think there are a lot of times where it's like you should be, and I mean naturally, and I mean, I'm not necessarily saying this is wrong at all, because it's like, you know, men and women are built different, and, you know, I think there's you know, certain give and takes, you know, in relationships and stuff like that, and so it's just like, I think, you know, I think women want to, a lot of times they want to know that the guy that they like, you know, is actually like interested in how she feels and different things like that. So I think that's why it wasn't as like she wanted him to kind of to think and like figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I think as far as, I think it was, yeah, I kind of, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said, Kim, as far as like him trying to hold her accountable and different things like that. I think it was like, okay, he wanted to see her like work for the role in auditions and stuff like that. She wanted him to pretty much just say that she was going to be the lead role.
She felt entitled to the role because it was based on her life. Yeah.
It was like, you know, audition, like, no, like, this is about me. Like, I'm supposed to be the main role, and that's it. And so, yeah, and just, yeah, it was a lot of like different, I mean, it was just a lot of like expectations. And I think as far as like the I think when he was talking to her in the bathtub, yeah, I was like, man, it was a crazy scene, because I think it was just like, you could see the point, you could see like they had both got to the point where they had pushed each other's buttons to where they were just gonna say anything.
I was cringing that whole scene.
Yeah. But it was crazy, like how he went in so hard, but then in the end he kind of came back and was like, you know, but like, I really do like love you and different things like that. So, but yeah, it was crazy.
Can you like, you had something to say?
Yeah, at the very end, he still needed her, because in the day he is a needy man. So that's my opinion on him. Very needy man. And it was very effed up that he was using her as his muse and inspiration for his screenplay, and he didn't give her any credit. Like, I know at the end of the day she should have been accountable for her own career, but still, like, thank her.
No, for sure. I mean, that goes without saying. I think we can all agree to do, like, he should have thanked her. If nothing else, that's your woman. Like,
yeah. Then he was like, he didn't think it was a big deal. That's the part that got me pissed off. He didn't think it was a big deal. He was like, oh, why are you bugging over this? Like, he didn't think it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Which goes back to the comment I made earlier about consideration and safety. And I think that's another thing too, is like every woman wants to feel safe with her partner, period. That's a generalization that I can get behind. And I think every partner wants to feel safe with their partner, but I know specifically, like speaking as a woman, we want to feel safe. And I think maybe she felt like her safety was jeopardized in a sense of like, if you can't understand why I'm mad about the small things, how can I trust you with the big things? You couldn't even thank me about a movie that you made inspired by my life. I gave you a front row seat to material. You studied me to get the accolades that you got for this film. And now you're sitting here ranting about LA Times Karen on this review that you probably would not have gotten if we weren't together because it's based off of me. And so I think the same way he was holding her accountable, she was holding him accountable for his hypocrisy. And there was a lot of contradictions that he was making, like, you're ranting and raving about these reviews that you got, but when you put art into the world, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It's now the subject of critique. Nobody is above critique. You cannot like it, but it's going to happen. So for you to feel that impassioned about words from a woman that doesn't even know you, but you're completely disregarding the woman that you supposedly love in front of you, who's trying to pour her heart out about how she felt, you know, it was like a disconnect. So I can see how she would feel that she didn't matter. And he probably felt like, I've given you everything. We have a comfortable life. And it's just that comfortability of being content. Like, we built this life together. We got a nice house. I gotta, you know, I'm now getting noticed by producers or whoever. I can go into the room now. What more do you want? I'm providing that life. And she's like, it's not enough. So I kind of want to get into that conversation with y'all outside of the movie, just in general, about you mentioned that he was needy, but what makes somebody needy? And going into that, taking that a little deeper, when you're talking about relationships, whether they're based off of personal experiences, which is the place we can only speak from, what do you consider not being enough? Or like, have you ever felt that, especially as a man, Omar, have you ever felt that in a relationship where like you felt like you were giving enough, but still your partner wasn't satisfied? And both of y'all can answer that.
I would say yeah. I think there were times where, yeah, I was just really giving them myself and different things like that, but it was always, it was either this wasn't right, or you know, and well, I think there were times where I can be kind of self-conscious about like facial expressions, even though mine are all crazy. But I think, you know, just like, okay, you know, like I'm giving you something, you know, like what's going on, like what's wrong. And I think, but yeah, I think, I think it's one of those things where it's like, you just have to realize like, it's not, yeah, like it's not about you. So, and I could definitely, I think I could understand. I could kind of understand where he was coming from. I just don't.
In what regard?
Well, as far as like, well, I think I could understand where he was coming from um, as far as, well, I don't know. It was just like, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, he's mad about this and he has a point, but then it was like, she's mad about this and she has a point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, yeah, this is the biggest night of his life and stuff like that. You know, why are we arguing? But then again, it's like, I couldn't see myself like writing a movie, like me, myself, I couldn't see myself writing a movie about a girl that I'm with and then forgetting to thank her, you know, at least, you know, give her the biggest thank you at the end of the speech, something like that. And so like, I kind of disconnected on that part, but then like, but then I think her, and just kind of hearing, you know, all the damage that she's kind of done within the relationship of, you know, having to go through, you know, her addiction and different, but like, you know, hurting him in the process and stuff like that. But I mean, although, you know, I mean, when you date somebody who has an addiction, that's kind of, you're kind of, it eventually gets to the point where it's like, you know what you're going to be dealing with. So,
Right.
you know,
and that wasn't his first time, is he? So,
right,
you know,
right.
plainly made it. He's used to that.
Yeah. So it's like, he obviously, you know, seems to have some kind of thing for girls that, you know, that live that way, that feel that way about themselves, different things like that. So,
girls who need him because he needs to be needed. What were you about to say, Ken?
I was about to say, it seems like a fetish. It seems like a fetish for him to go after women who are going through addiction or severe mental health issues or any other type of instability or whatnot.
You know, there's a thing too. Like, I know we've all sort of heard the phrase soul ties. I've definitely been soul tied to somebody, and it was hard as hell to break that. But there is also such a thing as being trauma bonded to somebody. And I think what was revealed is that there was a huge trauma bond between them because it was a codependency. You know what I'm saying? Almost like they were each other's drug. He needed to be needed by her because that's what he was used to. He was used to being with broken girls, or who, you know, whether that's addiction, whether that's daddy issues, whatever the case is, but with a woman who is fragile and who depends on him to sort of be that support system. So he's used to doing that. And I have to wonder, like, is he used to that because those things that he thinks that he's fixing in their lives is also something that needs to be fixed in his own life? Like, both of them are horrible communicators. And it just seems like both of them, this is probably going to be reaching, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think both of them too, like, definitely had a little taste of narcissism in the way of, like, it was all about them. And in those moments when they're trying to have a conversation, I don't think they saw each other. I think it was like, this is about me. This is about how I feel. This is my ego. You didn't thank me, which is valid to be upset about. But at the same time, he's like, this is my movie. I did this. It would have gotten made without you. So yeah, you know, get over it. And she's like, no. So it was just like a lot of me versus how did we get here? And even at the end of it, when you thought it's like every time I thought they figured it out and we were going to get some relief, no, here comes argument number 12. Like, and you remember when you did this? And another thing, like, that's just what it felt like. And I'm like, now y'all are using music to be those communicators. Like, that was just so weird to me. That was the most passive aggressive thing I've ever seen, is putting up a song, putting it on your phone and sitting it down next to your partner while you smoke a blunt or whatever it is, because you can't say, you know what I mean? Like, that was just, I would have got up and left. Like, you finna play James Brown? Really? That's what you feeling right now? I'm out. Use your big girl words. This is too much for me. I'm out.
Yeah, I didn't even caught on to that. Like, I forgot that even happened in the movie, but you just resparked my memory.
Yeah, they both used music, like, as a way to passively communicate.
She used the song too in the beginning, right?
He played a song as soon as he got in the house at the very beginning. She used the song after she got out the tub when he was sitting on the porch.
Well, he had played another one. He played Forgot to Be a Lover.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, she was and she was offended by that.
Yeah, she was bugging.
Yeah.
I think it was crazy to see, like, because she was talking about how she was talking about how consuming his work was. And like, he kind of argued against that, but it's like in the movie we have like two whole scenes where he's just like going off talking about reviews that he's getting, and it's like a 20-minute, like, it's like a 15-20 minute rant. And she just has to sit there and she's just being quiet the whole time. And then and then I think as far as when she was talking about, I think as far as her asking, like why he didn't cast her, like towards
Mm-hmm.
the end, I think she was just scared of the answer. Because
Ooh,
like
that's a good point.
because even when she like before she asked, she was like, you know, like, can I ask you something without you, being totally, making her feel like shit about it.
Mm.
Um, and so, yeah, I think she was just, I don't know. I think it was like he didn't want to say she didn't want to hear like maybe like I didn't want you in it, or like I thought somebody else was better, or different things like that.
I agree. I agree. I think they were both afraid of the truth. But
Mm-hmm.
also, like, the speech that she gives at the very end when she's sitting on the bed and he's leaning up against the wall, when he finally surrenders and throws in the towel, and she's just basically giving this monologue about her contributions to the relationship and why he should understand how she feels and how much she's given to him as much as he thinks he's given to her. And I'm just like, watching that whole ending part, I don't know. It made me, I'm not gonna say made me mad, but it annoyed me. It definitely annoyed me because it goes back to y'all did all of this arguing and y'all still didn't resolve anything. Both of y'all feel like you both done enough in a relationship. Clearly you have not. Um, and I think that they were each trying to get there in their own way. And finally he just surrendered because it's like, what else am I gonna do? I sleep next to you every night. Like, I'm just gonna give in. But how do y'all feel about the way that it ended? I don't know. That just left me feeling just, why did I watch? Like, what did I do this for? Why did I just spend this whole hour or however long it was watching y'all go back and forth just for y'all to get here? And then you played Outcast Liberation, which I don't know. I pay attention to stuff like that because I'm a big music head too, of like songs that are synced up to certain scenes, because that has a lot to, like, that shaped how you feel about a scene, like how you interpret it.
Right.
So it was just very what's the word I'm looking for?
Would you say all over the place?
Yeah, but I'm looking for a word more specific, but that's a good way to put it for now. It just didn't, it felt very incomplete to me.
Yeah, that ending, I just felt like he was still looking for her when he was going out in the woods or around the house trying to look for her. It showed me, it showed to me that he's needy. He still need her at the very end because he was looking for her and looking for her on the bed. Needy.
What makes somebody needy? We glossed over that. I'm interested to know.
I mean, I guess it's like when you need like I think emotional support, like when you just kind of tend to rely on that person.
But shouldn't you be getting emotional support from your partner anyway?
No, yeah. I mean, I definitely think so. I think it's like, I think when it gets to a certain point,
Yeah, because they're
but I
not your
mean,
therapist.
but I mean, I think even with that, it's like there are going to be times where it ebbs and flows. Like there's going to be one person that may, that may need a little bit more, than usual. But I mean, I think as long as it's just not like a constant thing throughout the relationship where one person is just kind of, continuously um, just kind of using and not,
Just too emotional.
yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, maybe emotional, maybe I think just not
Dramatic.
able to, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think he talked about like, like her not really going after her career and stuff like that. So he felt like he needed to, constantly boost her, but then also, with him, you know, she said he was needy because he, you know, he can't really keep his head on straight, you know, without, you know, her being able to, you know, help him and guide him. And then I think even like how she talked him down kind of in the beginning, like she was like, you're getting mad about reviews that haven't even happened yet. She was like, you know, just like chill out, like, come on. So.
And that's from the writer's personal experience, you know. But we're gonna get into that. I'm about to say what I'm about to say. I feel like he is needy because he needs her for his inspiration for his movies or whatnot. And not only just her, but the other girls that he was dating. Like he needs those type of women for his inspiration. It's like a fetish or a niche for him. Like maybe he's like quote unquote a dom who gets off from that. Like goes after submissive women who are going through things such as drug addiction, mental illness, homelessness, whatever, like whatever they're going through at that time. It seems like he needs that to fulfill his art or whatnot, to gain inspiration from his art. And two, like Zendaya's character did brought up like how he came up from a very privileged like household and stuff. And I intuitively feel, I don't know the whole backstory, but I intuitively feel that maybe he didn't get a lot of love from like his mom or grandma. So that's probably why he needs to be around these women to get that type of love and that satisfaction. I'm the boss now, I run things. So that's my observation from this.
I don't know. I like to be careful with words. I think it's easy to sort of cast somebody off as needy because they have a different love language. Some people by nature are more emotional. And I think the conversation that we're not having is about compatibility. We just say fuck compatibility altogether. If we're attracted to somebody physically, then we're going to try regardless. And there are so many people that are trapped in unhappy relationships because they went for the aesthetic of what was pleasing to them and what they thought their homeboys was going to be. Hey, bro, you did good on this one. Same thing goes with girls. Like, he fine. Like, where you find? Like, those are conversations that people actually have. And people actually do get in relationships with people based on what they look like and how jealous they can make their friends. Like, that's something I'm not making up. So it's like, again, we skip the whole compatibility. There's more things that make you compatible with somebody than the way that they look. So that's love languages. That's your ability to communicate. That's your emotional intelligence. That's your spirituality. If you are spiritual, there's people together who are, one is, one ain't. Like, those things can cause those type of blockages in your relationship. And then you're wondering why 5, 6, 7 years from now, you're miserable, or y'all are having these same arguments, or you're having a man. I feel like this. A man who is truly compatible with his woman, or vice versa, it doesn't have to be a man or woman, whatever type of relationship that you're in with your partner. If you are in a relationship where you are truly compatible with your partner, we wouldn't even be having the conversation of you thanking me, because it would have already been in you to thank me. You would have already considered me because, one, you would have taken the time to understand who I am emotionally. And it's the same for you. Like, my love language is not physical touch. That's not one of them. My love language is quality. One of mine, for example, is quality time. The other one is words of affirmation. So if I'm with somebody who's considered overly affectionate, it's easy to cast him off as needy because my love language is not physical touch. And if we're outside and he just want to be touchy, I'm like, oh, you're needy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what happens. Right. That's how people get casted off. Because you can be somebody who's not really that sensitive emotionally for whatever reason. And then you're with somebody who cries when they see puppies cross the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are things that make people incompatible. So those are conversations that I like want to dive into with y'all before we get to, I know, Kenn, you want to talk about the other part that we discussed earlier, but I want to like get into that real quick. Do y'all think that played a role too?
Oh yeah, it did. Definitely. Like they're just not meant to be.
Yeah.
They're not meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I would say that too. I think because I think once again, the kind of thinking about myself, like I'm not as like I wouldn't be as quick to call somebody like needy, like because I'm the type of person like I don't really care. Like you can talk to me about what's going like because it's like you have some people that don't like to hear other people's problems because it's like, oh, okay, I got enough stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whereas like I'm like I don't really care because if it takes my mind off of my own stuff, so I can I don't mind hearing somebody else's stuff and different things like that. So, but yeah, so I think it's definitely I think it can be a compatibility issue. I think I don't know. It's like they just had a weird. I mean, it's like you could tell like they definitely loved each other. Like they can make each other laugh and stuff like that. Um, but I think also I think just they like to hurt each other and go back and forth and do all that um
Yeah.
and I think yeah, and I think it's like she has a problem with like feeling wanted in the relationship because even she talked about like um how his what is it his lack of jealousy borderlined on indifference
Mm.
um and then but then he feels like she's kind of always bringing things down and can't really celebrate and different things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so yeah, it's like they were missing each other on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But Ken, I want to go into what you want to talk about next.
Mhm.
Go ahead. You
Yeah.
can kick us off.
About sorry. Okay, it was about the LA Times lady, right?
The review. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So I have a lot to say about that. I really feel like the writer of the movie used a Black person to vent out his frustrations towards this white lady that wrote this horrible, bad. I haven't even read the review. I haven't read the review, but wrote this review on one of his films. So he's using like this Black actor to vent out his frustrations against her. And I just think it was kind of very weird and very cringy because, like, why are we spending like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or however long it was on this one particular person? Like, it was just really weird and very toxic male fragility. Like, I'm sorry, but it was just weird. It was cringy.
You
And
think it
my
would have been
mom,
different if it would have been a woman that was going in the way that he went in? Would that take
I
out the male
still
fragility point?
um I still think it is just creepy, period, especially as a white person using a Black actor to vent out his frustration. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know how true that is though. I've heard a lot of people say that. I didn't hear the writer himself say that. Um, but I don't know. I think watching that scene, what I took from it was the bigger picture of how white people critique Black art. That's sort of what I took from the scene. It wasn't so much as, oh, this white director is letting off steam at this critique that he got. Everybody lets off steam about critiques that they have. And maybe it is weird, but also he's the same person that works on Euphoria. So to me, knowing that, it wasn't a situation that I felt like he used Black voices because John David Washington also and Zendaya were very instrumental in the script as well. Like there was a lot of script rewrites and a lot of reworkings, and even the way that John David presented it wasn't even how it was in the script. So that's why I kind of feel like that's a little bit of a reach. I feel like somebody took that and sort of ran with it after I went back and actually watched the interview with the producers and the writers and understood where the inspiration from the movie came from, which we talked about in the beginning, him forgetting to thank his wife. But I think the bigger picture was how, like I said, white people critique, Black art. And that's why he went on this whole rant for 40, 30 minutes, however long it was, because he was basically getting down to the bottom of everything that Black people do doesn't have to be political. And whatever the film was, she took it as, oh, this is some political take on Black people, and this is how Black people are really struggling in the inner city when they're on drug addiction, and making it this whole social justice movement about Black women and being drug addicted, which is the stereotype. Like, either we're bad mothers, we're too tough to be with men, or we're drug addicts. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is a real stereotype for Black women. So I felt like, in his own way, that's what he was addressing. And it just sort of came out like, oh, this white man's mad about a critique he got from LA Times Karen. Let's use this Black dude to relinquish that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it was, because I mean, even though it was a rant, I mean, he really, I mean, he made a lot of valid points. It's just like, it doesn't always have to be that. And then of course, like, and then it's, I don't know, it's what is it? It's just kind of, it can be kind of patronizing, because it's like, okay, it's like, oh, it's like this, this white writer is, is so woke and so tuned in that they're catching, all these supposed themes that the Black director or writer is putting into the movie and stuff like that. But it's like no, it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, art is something that's personal. And so it's like, even though, I mean, we're not always trying to make a statement, but it's like, art imitates life. So it's like, a lot of Black people have had to grow up, with drug addiction and different things like that. And so, sharing I mean, he just wanted to share a piece about that, and but yeah, so I think I kind of erred more on the side of that. I don't think it was necessarily, or I feel like it might have. I mean, it might have could have been like a double shot. It's like, making this statement, but also, because it was so obvious for people to do a little bit of research in the movie and figure out who the critic was. So, yeah,
it definitely could have been a little bit of both. I agree there. But I just don't want to take away from the gems that he was actually dropping during that scene, because there's always a little bit of truth, even in the midst of chaos. Yeah. And there was a little bit of truth that that he was speaking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, any final thoughts about the film? Would you suggest it to anyone who hasn't seen it yet?
I told my good friend about it because she's a big Zendaya fan, but she asked me, how did the movie go? What is it about? And I told her it was a bunch of arguments. She's like, hell no, no thanks.
I mean, when you tell somebody a movie's a bunch of arguing, nobody's going to want to watch it. I feel like...
I mean, it's the truth though. They was arguing every 10, 15 minutes. So I told her what went down and she was like, no thanks, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was actually talking to because I said I finished it today. I was texting my friend about it, asked her if she watched it, and she was like, no, not yet. And then she was like, yeah, I heard it's like a bunch of arguing, and I was like, because I know, like, because she's one of the types to like ask you for a preview of the movie before you watch it, and I'm just like, just check it out. Don't worry about what other people saying. Just take a look at it. Because I think I think as a movie, it's just good, like how the dialogue pulls you in. Like, even though it can be toxic and triggering and stuff like that, but just the way that it's written and put together,
very well written.
So good. Like that's one of the reasons why I love Quentin Tarantino movies, because I mean the action is cool, but the dialogue, the actual like conversation, is so good. So, but yeah. I mean, I definitely recommend it. I think just to, and I think even just showing people kind of an outside looking in, because I mean, people really act like this in relationships, and so like actually being able to show people like this is what some of y'all look like when y'all do stuff like this.
Definitely. But thanks y'all for tuning in to this review of Malcom and Marie. Definitely subscribe, comment, like, go watch it if you haven't watched it. If you watched this first before watching it, sorry, we spoiled it for you. You definitely should have watched it first. But definitely come on back. The next review is going to be on Judas and a Black Messiah. So definitely go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. So that when you come back and we talk about it, you'll know what's going on. Thanks, y'all.
All right.